I'm going to walk you through setting up Nostr following best practices. We're going to cover all the basics of keys, signers, clients, relays, and how to send and receive your first Zap. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functional Nostr account. I already have a full video explaining what Nostr is and why it's so important right now, so I'm going to skip that here, but the link is in the description if you need more context. Your Nostr identity is made up of two keys that are necessary to interact with the protocol. Your npub is your Nostr public key. It's a string of numbers and letters that you can share with other people so they can find you. On the other hand, your nsec or Nostr secret key is private. This is the master credential to access your identity. Whoever has this key has access to your account, your followers, your messages, everything. And so it should never be shared. There are two ways to obtain your keys. You can use a client to generate your keys or a signer app. Clients are applications that allow you to interact with the Nostr protocol. Kind of like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but for Nostr. A signer app is different. It's a dedicated tool. What it does is it stores your private key and approves signature requests. That's because when you interact with the Nostr protocol, you're always asked to sign events. This means you need to give permission to the signer app to allow those events to be published on your behalf. This proves that the events came from you without anyone else being able to publish them on your behalf. But the best practice is to generate your key inside of a signer app, ideally with open source code. The reason for this is because this app is specifically designed to protect your key. If you generate your keys inside of a signer, it's born in the most restricted environment possible, in a place that is designed for that security. And it never needs to go anywhere else. This helps reduce the attack surface. While having a key pair like this is really powerful for censorship resistance and avoiding impersonation, it's also where the biggest risk lies. That's why it's so important to protect your private key, because it is your online identity. So when generating your private key, I'm going to cover best security and privacy practices. On desktop, I recommend you start by using a VPN. A virtual private network is a service that encrypts your internet connection and routes it through a secure server, hiding your location and your IP address from websites and internet service providers. I recommend using a privacy-focused VPN, not the ones recommended by all the sponsored YouTubers that are probably honeypots. The best two, in my opinion, are Mullvad VPN and iVPN. Neither ask for your personal information, both accept Bitcoin over Lightning, and have a great reputation in the privacy and security sector. If you don't have a budget for a VPN right now, you can use the Tor browser instead. While it may be a natural assumption, Nostr is not private by default. You can read the Nostr Attack Vectors article on my website, link in the description, and it explains all the known vulnerabilities to be aware of. I'm not going to explain all of them here, but I am going to implement best practices while we walk through this. You can learn more about why I'm doing these things in that article. So before generating your keys, just make sure that your computer's up to date, that your browser is up to date, and that your computer has a strong password. Ideally, I like to use browser segmentation depending on what I'm doing. So I would use a separate browser or a separate profile in Chrome, for example, dedicated to Nostr specifically. This just allows us to segment things and keep work and private separate. Make sure that you do not have any AI software active on your computer while you're doing this. I'm especially referring to Windows Recall, which takes constant screenshots of your screen, which clearly is a massive privacy vulnerability. These are just a few best practices to reduce the attack surface and keep your keys safe. Once your computer's all ready, you're going to search for the Chrome extension nos2x. I chose this signer because it is fully open source and it was created by the creator of Nostr, Fiat Jaff. Once it's installed, you can pin it and click Start Here. Click Generate, then click Save. Show key, and write it down. Just like your Bitcoin seed phrase, keep this offline. Don't upload it to the cloud, don't keep it in an email or a message app or even a password manager. Just write it down and store it in a safe place. Now, if you prefer, you could restart the process and generate an encrypted version instead, which means your key will be protected by a password, so that even if someone finds it, they can't use it without knowing that password. However, the encrypted version of your nsec isn't well supported by all clients right now. Essentially, if you generate this key, it may not be accepted by certain platforms. Not yet. So just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to stick with the nsec, which is the most widely recognized version for now. Some people watching may be surprised that I chose nos2x over Alby as a signer for beginners. Alby is no longer a signer I can recommend in good faith based on personal experience and hundreds of hours wasted. It was very popular a few years ago, genuinely had a great user interface and integrated custodial wallet. I really loved using it at the beginning. It's how I got started with Nostr. I also onboarded a lot of new Nostr users using Alby. But then it became a massive time sink for me and everyone else that I onboarded. Endless debugging, constant errors, unhelpful support even on calls. I'll just never get back those hundreds of hours wasted. But I take 2 lessons from this experience. A signer doesn't have to look pretty, it has to work. And 2, I should have looked for other solutions like nos2x much earlier. I got attached to how great Alby was at the beginning, and I really tried so hard to make it work. Enjoy Alby if it's still working for you, but I can't in good faith onboard any more beginners to this tool. So let's go set this up on Android. I have a Graphene phone, and my favorite thing to do is to use a brand new separate profile for this kind of stuff to keep everything segmented and isolated. I'm still gonna walk you through Google-based instructions as well. So the first thing you're gonna do is download Orbot, which runs a device-wide VPN over Tor. If you already have Mulvat or iVPN, you can skip this step. Just make sure you have an active VPN on your device. Then we're gonna go download Zapstore directly from the GitHub repository. By the way, all the links are below in the description, and consider zapping me if you got value from this video so far. I have no ads and no sponsors, so your support actually is impactful, and it does bring in that new economy of value for value. This is how we leave behind the fiat incentives. YouTube, Google can't take a cut from that. That's incredibly powerful. Then you're going to click the latest APK to download it, and then copy the SHA-256 hash. Next, if you're on Graphene OS, you're going to install a Crescent from the Graphene OS default App Store. What I want to do here is make sure that the download that we got from Zapstore's GitHub repository is authentic and hasn't been tampered with. So then you're going to install App Verifier. We're doing it in this order because otherwise it's a chicken and egg situation. How do you verify an app that you downloaded from Zapstore if Zapstore was compromised? You know what I mean? A Crescent already comes with Graphene OS, so it's been vetted. All you have to do is open App Verifier, click Verify APK file to verify the file we downloaded, then select the Zapstore APK, then click Verify from Clipboard, which is going to check the SHA-256 hash we copied earlier. You should see a success message. That means that your APK is authentic and you can safely install Zapstore. However, if you're on a Google phone, you're going to need a computer to do this verification process. Honestly, that's beyond the scope of this video, but I have an article in the description below that explains how to do it. Verifying the APK file isn't mandatory, but it is a best practice to make sure that the apps that you are installing are safe, that they're from the developers themselves and not a malicious app. Next, go back to the folder where you downloaded the app and install it. And now you're going to install Amber, which you can download from the Zapstore that we just installed. Once you're in the Amber app, select Generate New Key and add your profile name. Click Approve Basic Actions, then click Finish, then click Backup. From here, you have a whole bunch of options that you can implement. If you're not on Graphene, I don't recommend clicking Copy to Clipboard due to keyboard vulnerabilities on non-Graphene phones. You can also show your seed words, but once again, especially if you're on a Google phone right now, make sure that you don't have any AI or screenshot software active. I never recommend using a cloud backup, but pick what's best for you and keep your private key in a safe place. The thing is, there's no password reset on Nostr. There's no support team, no email recovery, just like Bitcoin. So if you lose your private key, your identity is gone permanently. And I'll tell you, it happens to a lot of us. I lost the private key to my very first Nostr account from 3 years ago. I had saved it in a password manager that had a notes feature. But when I updated my computer and the app simultaneously, I didn't realize that the developers decided to get rid of that notes feature, or that they would force something like that on their users. And so after that update, since the feature was deleted, I lost my nsec. But I never should have used the password manager in the first place. Now I know I should have written it down, and so lesson learned. But maybe you already have a Nostr account and you've been listening to this tutorial so far and you're thinking, well, I didn't follow all of these best practices when I created my account, my first one or my second one maybe. For example, I didn't use a signer to create my account, I used a client. Or I've even pasted my nsec into a client directly without using a signer. Honestly, I've done the same things with my current account. That's why I don't give out my npub directly to people. I send them to my about page because if ever I need to change my nsec, they'll have access to the new one. I might get rid of that account at one point just because I don't know if it's been compromised. But here's the thing. Nostr is a young protocol. It's evolving, it's getting better over time, it's becoming more secure and more private. We're in the early adopter phase, so it's normal to make mistakes. I think about early Bitcoin and how some people had 10,000 Bitcoin and then lost it. The protocol was so young, we were still figuring things out, especially as non-technical users. So if I were to take a Bitcoin analogy here, I would say it's like I treat my current Nostr account as if it were 1,000 sats, for example, instead of 10,000 Bitcoin. I'm not going to grow a massive following and have all this stuff on there if I might need to change and create a new account eventually. I just want to remain flexible and keep in mind that I don't want to get attached to my account or anything like that because we never know. But I don't think it means we shouldn't be on Nostr. It's absolutely amazing to be part of this first wave of users and to discover this protocol and improve it. Because it's permissionless. You can just build stuff. Awesome, now that we set up your private key, we're going to talk about clients. I'll also be able to show you where to get your public key in a few seconds. So clients are the user interface that allow you to interact with the Nostr protocol. Essentially, they're apps. The protocol itself has no feed, no search, no look. It's just code. It's the clients that provide the user interface. Now, not all clients support connecting to an external signer, and I would recommend not using any clients that don't accept an external signer. They would require you to copy-paste your nsec to access them, and that's a security vulnerability. For desktop, I prefer Primal and Nostria. They are the two that I have the most experience with so far. Primal is by far my favorite recommendation for beginners, especially if you're coming over from X. Nostria is great if you prefer an interface that you can customize, and if you want even more features. But just for the sake of time, I'm only going to focus on Primal for this video. When it comes to Android, I use both Primal and Amethyst. Amethyst has Tor support, you can run a local relay if you connect it with Citrine, which I'm going to show you later, and it has a direct integration with Amber. But it's less aesthetically polished compared to Primal, and I'd say it's a little less user-friendly. Amethyst has also made some strange development choices recently, but it's still a good app for now. Primal made some great progress. They now have an integrated self-custodial wallet on mobile, and I think it's really amazing. I'll talk more about it after. And I just want to mention, I said my channel has no ads or no sponsors. None of these businesses, projects, or developers are financing me in any way. I'm talking about all of these tools because I actually use them myself and enjoy them. So let's see how to use clients on desktop and on mobile. On desktop in your browser with nos2x, you're going to search for primal.net. Click Get Started, and then Advanced Login Options. Click Login Now, and what you just saw is nos2x pop up. From this point forward, when any Nostr app needs to sign something when you're on desktop, it sends a request to nos2x. nos2x shows you what it's signing. You approve it, and then the signed result goes back to the app. Your private key never goes anywhere. It stays safe in nos2x. That's what a signer does. It's the only app that sees your nsec. I'll discuss what all the authorization messages mean later on in this tutorial. And then there you are, you're signed in. Click your profile image at the bottom left, and then this is where you'll see your active npub, or the public key that you can share with people. And when it comes to Android, download Amethyst from Zapstore or Google Play. Then you're going to open the app. You can adjust the Tor settings if you want, but then don't paste your nsec. You don't even need to paste your npub. This is a little bit confusing from a user interface perspective, but leave that field empty. Click I accept the terms of use, and then you can click Login with Amber. I would recommend never saying I fully trust any application ever. Keep approved basic actions for now. And you're in. By the way, if you want me to cover iOS and get an even more in-depth Nostr tutorial that is unbiased and based on my 3 years being on Nostr, then I recommend going to the community-funded video page on my site, https:/Daniella.io/build. There's a Nostr project on this page, which is a very in-depth multi-client tutorial that will easily take me more than a month to make. This video will be custom tailored to the people who zap it. So all you have to do if you want to participate is zap the project that you want me to make, and then scroll down and fill out the questionnaire to let me know exactly what you want, including more information on iOS if that's what you'd like. This is an idea I had to be able to self-fund videos and not have to count on ads or sponsors. I hope to provide you as much value for value possible with these community-funded projects. All right, now let's set up your profile. On desktop from primal.net, click on your profile photo in the bottom left corner. Then click on Edit Profile. At a minimum, add your name or pseudo, a photo, and a short bio. If you have your own website, I would highly recommend using photos hosted on your own website. Just upload a profile picture and your banner to your own website backend, and then paste the link to them in your profile under More. That way you have full control over the photos on your profile. But don't worry too much about this if you're a new user. It's just the best practice if you can. Same thing for NIP05 verification. It took me a lot of trial and error, but I finally figured out the best way to do this for free. What NIP05 allows you to do is have a badge on your profile that proves that you verified your account with a domain name that you control. This isn't like Twitter's blue check. It's more like people know very well that I own the domain name Daniella.io. So if I verify my account using my Daniella.io domain with NIP05, it's a way for me to effectively prove that this Nostr account is mine. That's because it's connected to a domain name that I actually control. If ever my nsec or my Nostr account was compromised, what I could do is detach my domain name from that account, delegitimizing it. It's another way to prove personal ownership and verification. However, implementing NIP05 is kind of advanced, so I would put that in the community-funded video if you're interested. Now let's set up Android. Click on the top left image in your profile, click Profile in the menu, then the writing button with the little pen next to it. And here you can add a display name, username, bio, profile picture, banner image, and more. Now here's one of the most powerful things about Nostr. It being a protocol, you can use multiple clients at the same time connected to the same account. And most Nostr users, including myself, actually do this. We often do this for convenience. On my phone, I prefer to use one client. On desktop, I prefer to use another. Some clients aren't available on desktop or on mobile or vice versa. Other times it's because I want to do things I can do in one app and not the other. That's because some Nostr clients support different NIPs and events. Let me explain. Every piece of content on Nostr is considered an event. Every like, post, zap, and message, for example. These are all events. Events are associated with kinds. And the kind number is the label on each event that tells every app which rules to apply to it. Understanding even a handful of them can be incredibly helpful even if you're not a developer. But all of this information is scattered across the internet in forums, on GitHub, or in different developer discussions that regular users like you and me probably aren't going to go read. So I gathered all of that information for you, and I wrote 2 beginner-friendly articles on my blog. If ever you're signing an event on Nostr and you want to verify, you want to make sure that the NIP or the event is something that you actually want to authorize, you can go to my website to the articles section and have a look at both of these articles. One is the full list of NIPs and the other is the full list of events. But I only put important ones for beginners and non-technical users. Like I said, this is designed to be beginner friendly. Both articles are in the links in the description. So I was saying, like many Nostr users, I switch between clients depending on what I want to do. Let me give you an example. Primal accepts NIP88 and kind 1018. This means that you can run polls on Nostr. However, Nostria doesn't support them. So if you're using Nostria and I post a poll on Primal, you won't see it. You actually have to use a client that supports NIP88. On the other hand, Nostria supports things that Primal does not. All the clients get to decide what they want to implement, and they can choose among everything that's possible to develop in Nostr, among all the NIPs and events. If the Nostr video on my community page gets funded, I would actually really like to talk to the developers. I think it would be cool to interview them and ask them your questions. I want to find out what NIPs they do support, what features they have that we may not be aware of. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't use because I'm not aware of them in these clients. I think it'd be really cool to create an in-depth resource for us, non-technical users, that has a comparison chart explaining all the different clients, the different events and NIPs that they support. I'd also be curious to learn more about their paid products because I'm not paying for anything on Nostr right now. Honestly, I never really did any research to figure out why it would be worthwhile to pay for any of these clients. And I don't see any of these apps being in competition whatsoever. My guess is that most Nostr users use multiple clients depending on what they want to do. And I think it'd be really cool for non-technical users to see all the advantages of all of these clients in one place. Relays are another really important part of the Nostr protocol. Essentially, they're all independent, distributed, decentralized servers that store and distribute Nostr content. They're just run by individual operators around the world. When you publish a post, it goes to the relays that you're connected to. When someone wants to read your post, it goes and fetches it from that relay. Because there is no central server, there is no single point of failure. If one relay goes offline, your content still exists on other relays. It's good to have a list of multiple relays just in case one goes down. And having multiple relays avoids censorship. But the best practice to avoid censorship completely and to never lose your content is to run your own relay. But before I talk about that, as a beginner, you don't really need to manage relays. Every client comes with a default set that will get you started. But you probably eventually want to refine these. For example, you may not see the content of people that you actually want to follow because you don't have any relays in common. Honestly, when I first got started, I didn't understand how relays worked. I just went to a few big accounts that I trusted and copy-pasted the relays that they had. Was that a good idea? I wouldn't recommend it. I realized later on that some of the relays that they had in their list were paid relays, so I connected to relays that I couldn't actually connect to because I never paid for them. But I just didn't understand relays at the beginning. So, after doing much more research, these are the relays that I would recommend to beginners today. Just keep in mind this is a place to get started, and some might not be available in the future. Just keep learning more and update them maybe in 6 months to a year. Now, like I said earlier, the best thing to do is to run your own relay. If you go to my profile, you'll see that I have one. But please don't try connecting to it. It's going to block your npub anyway. It's just configured for my npub. This is definitely more advanced, like setting up a Nostr relay on your Bitcoin node and then connecting it to your own domain name. But honestly, it's the way to be fully sovereign. You back up all your data and you avoid censorship. This is something I would talk about in the community video. But if you want to add basic relays right now, on desktop you want to go to Settings, Network, and then Add your relays. On Android, the good news is that you can actually run a relay on your phone very easily. To set this up, go to Zapstore, search for Citrine, click Install and Trust, Install. When you open the app, it's going to ask you to select a backup folder. So select the folder where you want to save your backups. I'm going to create a new one called Nostr. Next, you're going to click Download your events, and you're going to click Login with a signer. This is going to open an overlay from Amber, and you're going to click Approve Basic Actions. And there it is. It automatically entered your npub. Then click Fetch Events. And what Citrine is doing is downloading all of the events that are associated with your account. So any posts, messages, etc. Once it's done, go back to Settings and then click Accept Events Signed By, and you want to put your own npub here. You can get that from Amber by clicking on the profile icon on the bottom right and then just copying your npub. What this is going to do is make sure that you're the only one who can access your relay. It might be unnecessary because it's running locally, but I think it's a best practice. Then click Apply Changes. And whenever you want, you can export all your Nostr events by clicking Export Database to save it to your Nostr folder. This is a very simple way to set up a relay on your phone, but you do need to have Android. And it could be energy intensive, so having a separate profile on Graphene is a huge advantage here. By the way, I believe Graphene OS is the most private and secure phone operating system that's available today. I've been using it as my daily driver for the last 1.5 years, and I have no regrets. If you'd like to learn more, there's a community video available on the build page. It's just another one of those very complex videos to make. So once everything is set up in Citrine, we need to connect Citrine to Amethyst. Copy your host, go back into Amethyst, click your profile in the top left, scroll all the way down and click on Relays. Scroll down and click on Add Relay under Local Relays. Here you're going to enter your local host and your port in this format. And there you go, you have now set up a Nostr relay on your phone. So your feed will be empty the first time that you open a client. That's because there is no Nostr algorithm. And that's the best part of Nostr. I think it's so underrated. You get to program your own Nostr algorithm. I could create a pretty long video about how to program your own Nostr algorithm, or essentially customize your experience so it's exactly what you want to see, and that was actually the second most requested video from my audience. So I'm going to make this video for you in a few weeks, but I need your help. In order to make this video the most helpful possible, I'd like to invite you to go to Daniella.io/polls and fill out the Nostr poll that's there. It's private and anonymous, and it's for you and anyone else that you tried to onboard to Nostr who chose not to stick around. This extra information will really help me make a better video for you. And I'll probably write an article associated with it as well. If you want to be notified of the results when the video comes out, click the subscribe button and the bell. But here are some quick ways to make your feed interesting in the meantime. Follow accounts that you actually enjoy. Start by looking for individual accounts. So for example, Jeff Booth. Once you've followed a few individual accounts, you might want to check out topics. Let's say you're into gardening. Go to the search bar and search for gardening. There, you'll find a couple accounts to follow that are related to your personal interests. Once you've followed a few accounts related to your interests, you may want to start following groups. A lot of clients have integrated with follow packs. These are just groups created by anyone that regroup different accounts that generally talk about specific things. For example, health and fitness, journalists, off-grid, certain religions and languages, etc. So just follow groups and people who have interests similar to yours. A lot of people say Nostr is only for Bitcoiners, but it's because they have a follow list that's being imposed on them. I'll talk about it more in the other video that I'm going to make, but I think it's really important to take self-responsibility and ensure that you build your Nostr experience yourself. That's how you make it the best possible for you. Another key feature of Nostr is its integration with Bitcoin. A Zap is a small amount of Bitcoin sent over the Lightning protocol. And on Nostr, it's attached to a post or a profile. So instead of just liking a post, you can zap someone and send them a small amount of Bitcoin. That shows even more appreciation. I mean, Bitcoiners like Bitcoin. And when it comes to value for value, this is incredibly important for content creators to avoid the algorithms and to reduce the need for sponsors. This is the value for value economy. To send and receive Zaps, all you need is a Lightning wallet with a Lightning address connected to your Nostr account. It's super easy. Let me show you. If you're on desktop, I would recommend using Koinos. I have a complete Koinos tutorial linked in the description below. The instructions haven't changed. Once you've created your Koinos account, you go to the Nostr settings in your profile and generate a secret key. All you have to do is copy that secret key, then go over to Primal, Settings, Connected Wallets. Select Nostr Wallet Connect. Click Connect, and then paste your secret key here. This will allow you to connect your Koinos wallet to the desktop version of your Nostr account. On mobile, the Primal app already has an integrated wallet. I think they've made a ton of progress in this sense. It's super cool that they made this available because before they had KYC, which was just too much friction. I couldn't recommend it to beginners. Now I can. The wallet in Primal on mobile is self-custodial, which means that it gives you words that you need to protect just like your nsec or your Bitcoin seed phrase. However, the Primal mobile version and the desktop version are not connected, at least when it comes to the wallet experience. So you're going to need Koinos or some other wallet on desktop, but you can use Primal's native wallet on mobile. And it's very similar with Amethyst here. If you wanted to zap on Lightning, you're going to go to Wallet, then click Add NWC Connection, and from your Koinos account, you're going to create a new secret key and copy paste it over here. Do not, I repeat, do not use on-chain zaps. I don't even understand why this was implemented. It just makes no sense for so many reasons. But for now, Amethyst is still a respected app. Just don't use this feature. I'd be glad to ask the developers why they chose to do this, to be honest, but they're going to need really good arguments to convince me that this makes any sense. If you enjoyed this proof of work, consider zapping me at Daniella.io/v4v and follow me on Nostr. You can find my npub at Daniella.io/about. Everything is linked in the description below. Thank you so much for being here and see you on Nostr.